Welcome to Tech Talk with R&E Automated. I'm your host, Jordan Dieterle. Join us as we dive into the world of automation and manufacturing, bringing you expert insights from industrial professionals and business leaders. Whether you're a business owner, engineer, or simply passionate about technology, this podcast is your go-to source for the latest trends and innovations in the field. Welcome, everybody, to Tech Talk with R&E. I'm your host, Jordan Dieterle. Today here I have Marc LeVine with Thermosystems. I'm excited for this one. He is in the technical recruiting aspect of Thermosystems business. Hi, Marc. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Jordan. We're getting close to the end of the week, and I'm going to be greater by tomorrow and terrific on Friday. And thank you for pronouncing my name right. You could have blown the whole thing by calling me LeVine. It is LeVine. I won't go into the story of how that all happened, but it's an interesting one. So thank you
Yeah.
for having me. I'm very pleased to be with you today. And I am the talent acquisitions leader for Thermosystems, a systems integrator based in East Windsor, New Jersey. We focus primarily on the energy and HVAC markets, high level industrial stuff, district energy. We also work in life sciences as well as mission critical, which to the rest of the world means data centers in our world. Getting a little
Okay.
bit into semiconductors too, and we do a little bit of manufacturing, primarily on the food and beverage side. So
Okay.
we're up and coming. I mean, just a few years ago we were small. Now we're bigger, a lot bigger, and
Yeah.
growth just continues to soar. Great place
Yeah.
to work. I love it. I probably would have retired if I hadn't gotten this role, and I've never been sorry. For example, we had our 25th anniversary, and the company took the entire team as well as their families to Disney World 2 years ago.
Wow.
910 people. So that's the commitment that Thermo Systems has to the people who work for us. It's just a great place.
Yeah. I mean, you're saying you said they're smaller, say a few years ago, but I just heard you say 910 people. That doesn't seem
910
small.
people was with the families, kids up to 8.
Oh, okay, with
Today
the
we're at
families.
about, roughly 420 people, I believe, that work for
Okay.
our company.
Yep.
When that trip took place, we were probably in the 370, 365 range. So
Mhm.
910 people with flights and the Dolphin Resort and tickets to the amusement park and ground transportation and incidentals. That was really something. I mean, it really sent the right message. And as a
Yeah.
result, people hear about it from the outside. They want to come to work. That's only a small piece of what we do, and obviously that has passed. We have another one
Yeah.
coming up at now 3 years from now, but, we get bought lunch every single day. We have events
Crazy.
like Oktoberfest where they bring in German food served by people in lederhosen. We have 2 bonuses a year. Most people get 1. We have Thermo University, a great learning opportunity in our company, has its own curriculum, its own catalog, its own, um, director of L&D,
Mhm.
and she has a team. And then
Oh,
just the
wow.
list goes on and on. We're running out of ideas. A few years ago, we were looking at our benefits and we didn't know what we could do with them because they were pretty good already. So I joked
Mhm.
around with the owner. I said, you're a family oriented organization, you say. You're really not. So Dave,
Mhm.
one of the owners, said, well, what do you mean by that, Mark? I said, well, dogs and cats, aren't they part of the family? He said, I see where this is going. All right, Mark, go out and find his pet insurance. So we even have that too.
Oh, wow.
Running out of ideas. We got to come up with something new, but it's just a great place to work.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you guys are building like like I guess like a teamwork and like a culture that most people want to, be a part of. And, how does that like correlate to like your customers? And, I mean, is it always there to, support them and, the team is willing to jump on whatever's needed? Is that kind of what usually
Well, we
happens or?
have 3 core I'm sorry, we have
Mhm.
3 core principles. Number
Mhm.
1 is customer relations, number 2 is financial stability, and number 3 is employee relations. So
Okay.
customer service or customer relations is key. You know, the way I direct our TA team, talent acquisition, is to hire nice people, friendly people.
Yep.
Sometimes in the tech world, it's a little bit more difficult. People may be a little bit more introverted. People may not prefer to do client facing, but we find that grouping. And we realize that
Yeah.
our culture lends itself to aiding that process Because when people are satisfied, they like where they're working, they feel like the company is being good to them, they feel like they're part of a team where they collaborate, and a lot of them go out after work. I hear some of the conversation.
Mhm.
They don't want an old fart like me to go along, but I see they're going to Brick House Tavern and places like that, after 5. They truly
Yep.
wanna be with each other, not looking to just run home, and that plays into how customer relations, succeeds.
Yeah.
They have a positive outlook. They feel like they're representing the company and something they really believe in because the company is doing all the right things. We're a very
Mhm.
social responsible company. We offer opportunities for them to get involved in those things. So, it's not just talk the talk, but it's walk the walk. And I think that's
Yeah.
important. I mean, it took me literally over 50 years to find a company like this. I had given up.
Yeah.
I wanted to find a bad company, follow me from job to job. That's pretty much the way it went. And
Mhm.
friends of mine who retired ahead of me, are jealous. They wanna come back. They said, "Mark, you found it. You found the fountain of youth." I said,
Yeah.
It's not the fountain of youth. I'm still old, but I found a place that I like to work." And,
Yeah.
I've never ever looked back. I had come on as a consultant. There was never any idea that this would be a regular job, but I hit
Yep.
a sweet spot when, we had 60 people, 60,000,000 in revenue at that time, almost
Oh,
8
wow.
years ago. Well, instead of hiring 10 or 12 people for them, they said, "You're not going anywhere. We have 100 positions to fill." And it just went on, and the guy they didn't think they need ends up having 3 other recruiters reporting to him, or talent
Yep.
acquisition people. So the
Mhm.
company was at the right time. It was the right place. I'd gone through their onboarding, which was absolutely amazing. When I was an HR director for the New Jersey Press, which owned the Asbury Park Press Home News Tribune and New Jersey 101.5, our largest state radio station, we didn't
Mhm.
have onboarding at this level. And they had
Yeah.
this onboarding when they only had 30 or 40 employees. So it's the real
Wow.
deal. And I
Mhm.
was begging, please let me work here. Well, what are you going to do when you fill the positions? I said, well, I'm an HR director. I don't really want to get into benefits and compensation, but I can do learning and development, which I have done for them prior to taking over the entire TA role with a team, which I didn't have when I started, and turn that over to a full-time L&D manager. But I helped with social media marketing. I had my own company. It was a recruiting company and had a social media marketing component. So I learned
Yep.
a lot about that, which I was able to apply here. We made it work. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah. You were ambitious to fill in gaps where you've seen. Like, I mean,
Exactly.
I'm
Exactly.
very correlated with that. Like, where's the gaps that I can fill in and help, even though it's kind of not like my job, my total job to do. But I mean, I love to do it because it's like, hey, I'm helping out somebody else, and I'm always looking to do that. And I mean, like, the way that what I'm hearing from you is it's almost like you guys are taking, professional networking events and utilizing them to benefit your customers, benefit your employees. I mean, for me, we do every 6 to 8 weeks here in the upstate. I partnered with a supply house here, and a buddy of mine that I met probably 4 months ago, and we're like, hey, we're gonna do a happy hour every 4 to 6 weeks. We invite everybody in manufacturing to come out. It's a great event. We have a blast, and I meet new people, and it's just a good time to get out. And I mean, I would say the only struggle that we're seeing, and I mean, I've seen it, just yesterday, and you and I kind of mentioned this to say earlier, was how are you guys, or like, who are you guys hiring? Are you guys like hiring like Gen Z personnel, or is it like millennials? Like, what ranges are you guys getting into for hiring, and like with the professional networking area too?
I think it's a combination. Sure, you're going to have people earlier in their career, kind of in a larger group of people you're bringing on. We
Mhm.
have learning and development because of that too.
Yep.
Unfortunately, our colleges and universities don't do a very good job training in PLCs, HMIs, SCADA. We have
Mhm.
to do a lot of that. They
Yep.
also do a horrible job, or sometimes not a job at all, in working on soft skills, which we do. That's
Okay.
kind of one of our main focuses. Yeah, people just discount it. They think it's a bunch of fluff when it's not. It's something that's going to help you in your career as you go forward.
Yes.
There are things that you just don't learn in high school and college. that you need in the business world. For
Yes.
example, deconflating a situation, being able to work with other people and be able to tone things down, cool things down. And that's a whole
Mhm.
area of soft skill. Problem solving. Yes, you've had algebra and geometry, but you really never get behind that to figure out what it is you're supposed to be getting out of doing those math assignments. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people, because they don't have exposure to all this, they just they don't know what they don't know. They just don't
Yeah.
know that these things exist. I mean, I could probably give you a list of 100 soft skills and offshoots of those, of which maybe 5% of them would be recognizable to the general population, and a whole
Mhm.
bunch might not be. Yeah, they take public speaking in college, but that's not presentation skills. That's different.
No, it's
So
completely different.
mechatronics, maybe they do a little bit better on the technical side, but really
Yep.
nobody's addressing the soft skill side. And that's what I want to do. And I want to do this personally because I
Mhm.
want to help these younger people and even people who've been around for a while that maybe they're getting promoted. They started out as a technician, they didn't have any college or university experience. They went to a trade school or maybe a voc school during high school. They didn't even know these skills exist, and yet they want to move up on the ladder and become maybe a project manager or something along those lines.
Yep.
And some of the managers will quietly say to you, not him or her, very rough in their way. Let's
Yeah.
get over that. That's not just reading and writing and math. That's also understanding how you should act in a social situation or a business situation. That can be
Mhm.
taught, and we
Yeah.
teach and when we
Oh, yeah.
can't teach it, we find a place that does. We have contracts with LinkedIn Learning. We have vendors that come in because this all leads back to your earlier point. This stuff impacts your customer relations. And by the way, the
Oh, yeah.
customers love seeing that we're doing these things because we're
Yeah.
helping the entire industry. We may be
Mhm.
training people for somebody else, but that's okay because
Mhm.
they'll go to that somewhere else and say, guess what? I got this at Thermosystems. They're a great company.
Mhm.
And maybe they'll come back to us at some point. We
Yeah.
see a lot of people that apply and say, I wasn't ready to make a move when you called me 3 years ago. Now I'm ready. This is the first place I called because this is where I want to be. So
Mhm.
you're doing a lot. People are very thankful. I get LinkedIn messages all day long. Thank you so much. You've given me so much. Your blog, I read it every day. You have the group, the ABCs of Control Systems Engineering on LinkedIn. It's
Yeah.
wonderful. I'm connecting with
Follow
people
it.
that can mentor me. That I'm connecting with people that can hire me. And,
Mhm.
and it just feels so good. And knowing that we're doing something beyond making money as a company,
Mhm.
that we're actually benefiting a group of people that we really want to develop and care for because engineers years ago were not even known as engineers, they were known as scientists. And we all know
Yeah.
scientists, no matter what they do, are very important to society. Whether
Yeah.
they're doing something with medicines or whether they're doing something with technology. Why not benefit these people? These people need the help in a lot of cases because, like I said, they gravitated to the technical side. We can help them a little bit, kind of bridge the gap a little.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you're saying like the soft skills, I mean, put it this way, I was just at a career fair here in the upstate of, South Carolina, and we went through a meeting with the college, after the career fair. I'm on a board for the community college here, and we're talking about it, and we're talking about like, their curriculum, all this, and the whole thing came up. Well, what about like soft skills? And they were like, well, what do you guys want us to do on that? And we're like, well, I want them to be able to communicate, like communicate a technical problem, but I also want them to, hey, be able to de-escalate, an argument of, on the floor, and be able to, communicate with upper management, in a good way to improve, and that helps them in the way I always put it is it helps your business acumen, right? And if they want to get promoted or, accelerate their career, it helps them to be able to do that. And we're talking, younger generation where they're like, hey, I want to go to school, or, I want to go to school, and then I want to graduate and I want to work 8 hours a day Monday through Friday. I'm like, well, that doesn't always work that way. I mean, I asked that question as well. I said, well, what if I ask you, to go to this project that's, or, I guess 10 days on of 12 hours a day and 4 days off, but I mean, you're getting a flight, you know, on the 4th or the 11th day, and you can fly anywhere, right? I mean, whatever you wanna do. I mean, I did it. All of our managers did it, you know? So I always ask that question, like, "Well, what are we doing to improve that?" And what the college said is, "Well, what do you recommend?" You know, like, I'm like, "Oh, well, I mean,
They
I
live in a
guess."
different world.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what to recommend. Just say, like, because it makes it tough to recommend something when you just, you learn it over time, I feel like. I mean, I did. I was a controls engineer. I love that technical side. I wanted to be in that technical side on the laptop, talking to a machine. I didn't really want to talk to people, but I had to learn it.
Okay.
You know? So, I mean, that's the benefit of it. And I think I think we're growing in that way, but I think we're gonna have a big shift here in the future of how do we teach that? What do we need to do, right? I mean, Gen Xers and millennials, they don't wanna work more than 40 hours a week. They want that work-life balance. I mean, do you experience that in your guys', industry
Yeah,
part or?
yeah. I mean, they go through different stages. They come
Mhm.
out of college, a lot of them will say, "Hey, I love travel. I'm not tied down, and I
Yep.
like to see places and do things." And then maybe a little later in the career, they might say, "Look, I just got engaged or I got married, we have a child. I'm changing." Well, thank God there are other opportunities within our field and within our company that they can evolve to, where maybe there's a little less travel. But the point really is you got to research the career you're going into and see what the pros and cons are. Uh,
Yep.
the government puts out a guide, which I've used for years. It's kind of the encyclopedia of careers. There are tens of thousands of different careers we never even thought about.
Mhm.
That's why when you find out that there's something you don't like to do, there's probably tens of thousands of other things that you never heard of and you might want to. I started out in radio, TV broadcasting at Syracuse the Newhouse School of Public Communications, thinking that I was going to do that. Obviously, that's a very, very difficult field because you really have to know somebody, a connection. I went to school
Yeah.
with Walter Cronkite's daughter. She was in the program. Bob Costas was just a few years ahead of me, and there's a lot of not mo travel, there is some, but there's also a lot of relocation. Because in that field,
Mhm.
you start out in a small market in a town you never heard of on a small radio station, and you work
Mhm.
your way up the ladder.
Yep.
The people that are on NBC, ABC, CBS, I mean, even if those are popular anymore with everybody streaming,
Yeah.
uh, really went through a lot to get to where they are. And you
Yeah.
can notice because if you go to another city, like with, I'm not insulting you, Philadelphia or Boston, and then compare it with the national, Today Show, whatever, you could see that there's a level of quality above those other markets of those broadcasters that we're seeing on the national or the major cities, whether it's New York, Chicago, LA. So the system kind of filters folks out. So they
Mhm.
need to know that, yes, they're going to have to start out in a small town where they might not really like raising a family. That goes with the territory. For control engineers, travel has to happen because
Yes.
you know that the equipment is always at the client site, and the client
Mhm.
site is not here, and the client site tomorrow is gonna be somewhere else from where you are today. So
Yes.
you gotta go with that. You got to accept that. The other part of it is, and I love when project managers ask me if this is a hybrid work assignment, especially when I know that a lot of our clients have contracted us to have project managers on site. I don't know how you said deconflict the situation, conflict resolution,
Mhm.
over the phone or over Teams, 3,000 miles away from where it's actually live in action taking place. Uh,
Yes.
you got to know what the field requires. Yeah, are there, you know, aberrations? Maybe here's a job for a project manager. You never have to show up at the client site. Maybe there's one or two of those out there. I don't know where they are, but
They're very rare.
99.9% of these jobs require what they require. You got to go along with it.
Yep.
So, with the younger people that you're talking about, we have to develop them. We start the development when we interview them. We tell them all the bad things that are going to, well, not to everybody, it's bad, but all the negatives or the cons, and make sure they
Mhm.
understand that, look, We can't have a hybrid situation at Thermosystems because we can't say every Tuesday and Thursday you're going to be working from home because we don't know where we're going to be next Tuesday and Thursday, what client site. But what we
Mhm.
can do for you is we'll set up a flexible work schedule where
Yep.
if you don't have to be at a client site, if you don't have to be in the office, mention it to your manager. Say, look, I can get more accomplished from home today. I'm in a program or whatever. Fine. We don't care. That's
Mhm.
perfectly okay. We hire adult people. We trust adult people. We don't micromanage them. And we
Yep.
say to them, look, if it works for you and it doesn't hurt the business, we'll work something out. So
Yep.
that's the way. Now, eventually down the road, some of them may have that life changing situation, life altering situation, and they want to go do something else. That's
Mhm.
fine. That we
Yep.
understand, we respect that. And some of them
Mhm.
actually come back to us a couple of years later and say, "Yeah, I've tried real estate. That's just not for me. I
Mhm.
decided that I needed a little time to kind of get away from the travel or whatever. But if I'm not doing 80% travel, I'm doing 40 or 50%, no problem."
Yep.
So it's kind of we'll call it a career floundering within a career where they're
Mhm.
determining exactly what in that career they wanna do. We have 3 career paths for them. They can either move more technical, move management, like a project manager or whatever, or move
Mhm.
over to business development. Another thing colleges don't teach their students. When we
Yes.
speak to them about that, they think we're offering them a job at Best Buy. No, these are not retail jobs. These are jobs where you use your engineering knowledge to do some really heavy hitting things for clients that are gonna spend 30, 40, 50, $60 million on a project. They're
Yes.
gonna have an issue. You gotta solve what their issue is or what do they need us for. So you
Yep.
gotta look at all the numbers. You gotta look at the situation. You gotta put something together that's gonna work for them to make them wanna spend that money with your organization.
Yes.
Colleges never in their career services, or very few, talk about that as a career option. So what happens? Our control systems engineers are working with some of these people and say, "Yeah, I like that. How do I
Yeah.
become one?" Well, that's a career option at Thermo Systems. Move over there, and there are many different roles within that function. They can
Mhm.
develop leads. They can actually go out and call on clients. They can assist account managers. They can get into our marketing area. It opens up a great deal of opportunities for them. And some of these people who are not really interested in doing as much travel anymore might
Yep.
gravitate to that. It's a
Oh, yeah.
career option for you all folks.
Yep. That was what I mean, I went from controls engineer to the sales account management role because I didn't wanna travel as much, but I can tell you that if I'm needed at a customer site, I'm going, it's no ifs, ands, or buts. Just say if I'm called upon, I will go and make sure that, hey, I'm gonna take care of whatever they need. And that's the business development side of the business, and it is a growing area of the automation space and the manufacturing space. I mean, they need those people, and you need to be able to solve multiple different problems and use your engineering background.
Right.
And it's big. I mean, it's growing significantly. It's almost like I always hear this. There's not really sales anymore, but there is. It's just more of like business development. But it's
It's
like, hey,
consulting. It's
yes, yes,
consultative. I think that
yep,
they need to understand that. The
yep,
alternate term for sales engineer, by the way, to the audience, you'll see this, is solutions engineer. I think
mhm,
that's a great way of stating what the job is because
yes,
you are using your engineering abilities to solve your client's problems. And don't forget, on the other side, at the client, they've got some pretty smart people, plant
yep,
engineers and people in charge of the engineering over there.
yep,
They understand pretty well what their problems are and how to explain them. So they're going to judge those solutions and decide whether or not there's quality there. So it is a very interesting work job to be involved in solving a problem of industry and also creating a need for something that can cost millions of dollars. That's
yep,
a big picture item for most of them. And for you, that's a lot of reward for being able to do that, to make the presentations, to stand up in front of that leadership group and provide what your solution is. That's where we get back to soft skills again, those
yep,
presentation skills. If
yeah,
you're off by a little bit in that presentation, you're probably gonna it's a matter of either winning that assignment or losing it. And
mhm,
that's why these soft skills, we keep coming back to this, are so important. The way you
mhm,
speak, the way you collaborate in your team. The clients are paying attention to all this.
yes,
That's why a lot of companies, before they'll work with them, they'll ask for what their resume book looks like. They want to make
mhm,
sure that companies are not just filling roles with people, bodies. They
yep,
want to see those people. They want to know what they're all about. What degrees do they have? Where did they go to school? What certifications are they putting forth? Well, they also
Yep.
want to see that in person when you're presenting yourself. How do you speak? Are you able to explain to them things? Are you able to deal with a little bit of stress because maybe something's going wrong right now and you have to kind
Yeah.
of find leadership within yourself to work it out and to be able to explain to everybody involved what's going on and how it's going to be resolved and most importantly when.
Yep.
So we keep coming back to that, but I think we need to stress that in this interview more than anything else.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I spoke to someone last week and I said, what's happened to be somebody maybe in their early 20s. I said, what's with this not being on LinkedIn thing? Oh, we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram. I said, you're not going to get there what you get from LinkedIn.
Yep.
He said, I'll tell you the truth. Some of us are in an ivory tower and they just don't understand what that stuff all is. The networking piece, the
Yep.
mentoring piece, the exchange of information. Frankly, Mark, a lot of us think we have everything we need to go out there and be successful. Again, a case of not knowing what they don't know. And
Yeah.
when you start asking them questions like, well, conflict resolution, what do you know about that? What do I know about it? What is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You just go down the line, you get into some very important stuff, which the colleges don't spend time on. You're not reading books. There's a lot of great books on this stuff.
Mhm.
The book Mindset, it has really helped me grow. It was one of the first
Yeah.
I read,
Mine
and
was
that
How
was
to Win Friends and Influence People.
well, that's the earliest book I read. You
Yeah,
know,
that
I
was
I
my
can
favorite.
disagree with Carnegie on some of the stuff that's in there by
Yeah.
today. It is a
Yep.
good primer to give people an idea of this whole concept of soft skills.
Yep.
But mindset, whether you have a growth mindset or a closed mindset, that's the beginning because if you don't have a growth mindset, you're not going anywhere. Guaranteed.
Mhm.
If you do, it'll be luck. It won't be how you performed. You got to be able to realize that you don't know everything, that there are things out there to learn, and you learn
Mhm.
them by networking on LinkedIn.
Yep.
One of the complaints, by the way, I was reading recently about LinkedIn is that when I started using LinkedIn years ago, people that called people in their field found them more receptive than they are today. People don't seem to want to be bothered giving maybe an information interview to somebody who is just coming out of school and says, "Look, I
Mhm.
just got out of school. I put this resume together. I'm not even sure what to expect. Could you spend 15 or 20 minutes with me online?" Don't
Yeah.
blow people off that were in your own position when you
Yeah.
started out.
Oh, yeah.
People contact me all the time for this, and I always will make time for them.
Yep.
I'm encouraging people on your show, please
Mhm.
call me, join my groups. People say, "You're
Yeah.
doing all this stuff to help people? There's no other agenda?" No, there's no other agenda. Yeah,
Yep.
it makes me feel good, which I'm entitled to because I'm doing it. I was a
Yeah.
councilman. I love doing it because I actually did things for my town and actually saw them. I would never want to go further in politics because I don't know what I would be doing for people in Kansas. I
Yep.
don't see it. I don't live there, but I do live in Freehold, New Jersey, home of Bruce Springsteen. Give you the plug. Grew up in my house. I went to school with my sister. I do see things. We built buildings in town. I was involved in that. I brought them to the table. Same thing here. I like going out and saying, look, these people will come back to me one day and say, Mark, you were right. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
For
And yep.
the company is happy because, yeah, people are getting to know who is Thermosystems, or at least let me go look up this company and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Go to
And,
Glass.
how many people have you helped in your hometown get a job in
Oh, I can show
thermosys?
actually, I can't bring it up. I can't, I have an article from the Asbury Park Press before I worked for them, by the way, so there was no influence.
Yeah.
I was the liaison to our, public assistance group, welfare.
Yep.
I said and I was HR director for the press at that point. I said, "I don't wanna hear any excuses. Every one of you that wants a job has one. We're gonna get a vehicle, and we're gonna take everybody to Harvard Electronics, which is a company we owned, and employ them." These were factory types of jobs. They were packing things that were sent back for IBM,
Mhm.
and they would have to pack them, and they'd have to scan them or whatever. Well, he wrote an article in the local paper about, Mark walks the walk basically and offering all those people jobs. I've done
Mhm.
so many things in Let me see if I can show you something real quickly for the group.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
These are kinds of things that I like to do because they really provide goodwill and help the
Yeah,
people that need them. And I'm doing the same thing here at Thermo, and they love it
yeah,
because it's part of our social responsibility. I'll let
yeah,
you
and it
talk.
it's literally, for the younger generation and the listeners, like, I mean, if you're helping people, it makes you feel great, and you're also learning those soft skills. Like, I mean, you put it this way, if when you're in politics, I mean, you had to know soft skills. I mean, that's like the number one thing you need to know, like being how to talk to people, how to
Especially when
present.
taxes go up. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, they're gonna be, the whole town will be upset that, "Hey, taxes are
Oh,
going
they
up," and you're
were.
like, but it's like, "Hey, you're getting a new courthouse. You're getting." I mean, I'm experiencing that now. I say the new stadium and, all this stuff that's going on in upstate South Carolina here, and I'm like, "Man, my taxes went up, way too high. I didn't expect this." But yeah, I mean, that's the big thing, and I do agree that, with LinkedIn, it's a driver to accelerate your career. I look at it like I use it every day just like you. I mean, I think you said you're on it 17 hours a day. Well, it's always up, every day on mine because I'm talking to people. Like I'm trying to connect with people. I'm trying to, just build relationships, and I'm also trying to invite them out. Hey, let's go have a beer. It's I'm doing my, happy hour. 6 weeks from now. Come on out. I'd be glad, to have you. I'll buy you a beer. Nothing sponsoring it, not forcing you. If you'd like to, let's have
Yeah,
let's
right.
get together, right? So
Know someone new,
yeah, yeah,
that's what
exactly, and
networking
that's that
is. Know
professional
someone new.
development.
And be prepared to do something for them. Don't just call them when you have an emergency or a need. You
Yep,
gotta develop that. On LinkedIn, I send everybody birthday, wishes and, you
yep,
got promoted. I The first thing I do in the morning after I check my email is go in and wish them well
yep,
and, just kinda remind them I'm here for them if they need. There are 236 billion US, citizens on LinkedIn. 31% of Gen Zers are on LinkedIn. That's it. That's a
it's
very
crazy.
small number. The rest are on
Yes.
TikTok, and we're not going to TikTok. There are obvious reasons for that. And
Yep.
Instagram, you just can't communicate the way you can on LinkedIn.
No, I
It
don't have a
wasn't
TikTok,
built
so
for that purpose. LinkedIn is the only social media platform that was built for net professional networking purpose, and it
yep.
does a good job at that. They always used to say Twitter is the world. I guess now it's X, and they said Facebook is the party and LinkedIn is the office. And that's the way. Some people complain. They say LinkedIn's becoming more like Facebook. No, it's not necessarily so. I think people are just
No.
trying to get people to engage. And yeah, sometimes they go over the line and put up something about their family birthday party or something. But
Mhm.
it's just human nature to want to bring people into the conversation. LinkedIn, I
Yeah,
think themselves have to do more to get this engagement going because what I'm reading is that the reason that people are not embracing LinkedIn as much, they say, quote unquote, it's less intuitive and it's harder to engage, which I guess is related to that problem where I reached out to somebody for help and they blew me off. You know,
mhm,
some of that's created because the employment agencies are on there all day long, pounding away. And
yep,
after a while, you get desensitized. There's so much contact that you have, and you're busy, and they're
yes,
calling you, and they're not trying to build a relationship. They're just trying to fill a job order real quickly.
mm,
If you use it a different way, you say, "Look, I may not hire you today, but we're building a relationship where you might want to come and work for us.
yeah,
I'm not even going to talk to you about job openings. If you ask me, I'll tell you. But I'm going to talk to you about how you could become better. And if you become better, obviously become a better potential candidate for somebody. So
yep,
it's just a perfect picture of the way people should be using LinkedIn. Give
yes,
more than you expect to get back in return.
yes,
That's always been the philosophy of any kind of interpersonal relationship. It can't always
mhm,
be about, well, I'm in a bind. Can I borrow $50 from you? It's got to be when they needed $50, you gave it to them, and they'll remember, and they'll give you or help you when you need to be helped. But
yep,
people are so transactional these days, the government or whatever, that they've kind of lost touch with that, and they need to get back to it. It's like,
yeah,
don't look for what you need today. Look to build that relationship for tomorrow.
mhm. Or the future. I mean, I'm always looking, "Hey, 6 months from now when you need something, give me a call. I'll gladly help," right? I mean, and I'm always just wanting to connect and, "Hey, let's just have a conversation. Let's, hey, what can we do to help you?" Or, "How can I help you?" Anyway, like, I mean, for instance, I mean, I had a buddy that I met probably 4 months ago. I went over to his house. "Hey, I'm moving." Sure, I'll come over and help. It's just one of those things that I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm always willing to help, right? It's just a matter of, you know, let's get to know each other first. And, like I said, have a beer and, build that relationship. And it helps. And that's where I think, the younger generation, and I'm a millennial, but I I just grew up in a small little town with, 900 people. So I had to communicate with people. I had to talk to, multiple different people. I mean, there was only one post office lady. There was only one restaurant, right? So, I mean, I'm talking to them, and it was just like, oh, and then you move on, and I moved into, I went to Michigan State, and I was like, this is so much bigger. Well, yeah, I was like, yeah, if I want to make friends, I got to talk to people. I gotta get out, right? So, I think that that's a big, it's definitely a big picture, and I'm looking at it, and then I'm kind of, recapping. I would say that, LinkedIn is your, you know, primary source for, professional engagement, and, professional networking is, a great way to, build relationships, and I would say care about what people have going on, help them.
Absolutely. That's our main message for the day, everyone. Get involved on LinkedIn, please. I mean, it's so important to business in the United States. Where would employers go if not LinkedIn?
Yeah,
Where would you go if not LinkedIn? You
yeah,
can't have these conversations on other platforms, like Indeed or Monster. That's just transactional. They post a job, you apply. Here's where you build relationships that could be lifelong. These are
yep,
people that once you get to know them, and there's famous authors on there, there's, celebrities, also depending what you're looking for.
yep,
These are people that you can ingratiate, and they will care about you, and you'll care about them first, obviously,
yep,
'cause everybody wants to be cared about, and that's when we start. Once we know we're cared about, we start to give back. So yeah, take it slow, but build it. Don't just feel like you have to put your profile up there and then you go away. I mean, I see such profiles on there. I write to some people saying, put your photo up. I just see this little gray circle with a silhouette in it. It's like,
yep,
this is you're putting your best foot out there. That's not your best foot. And
yep,
same thing when we get a resume. A lot of our hiring managers will take the resume, go onto the LinkedIn site, sometimes even Facebook, and see what's
yep,
there.
yeah,
And somebody may have forgotten to put a job on LinkedIn because it took place at some point where they weren't thinking about LinkedIn. That's on their resume. And
yep,
now the words and music don't go together. So you're putting up what we call in HR a red flag. And maybe they go after somebody who doesn't have such a red flag. They just disregard it. They don't bother to call you to ask you or whatever.
mhm,
So, takes a little bit of work, takes a little memory as to what's out there. Social media is so vast and it has a long memory, and of course, don't forget on Facebook, don't put up crazy stuff because
yeah,
employers are looking and they're saying, sometimes they'll say, Mark, have you seen that Facebook page? Oh my God.
yeah,
And you just have to realize that we're very public these days, that there's a lot of information out about us, and you just have to fine tune it from time to time. That's why they have people out there that focus on reputation building on social
mhm,
media. You pay them, and they go in there and they look and see what's there, and they try to clean it up by kind of burying your posts lower
yep,
so that they see more positive things up front. There's a whole science to this that, again, like soft skills, people don't realize. They just do it and realize, oh, it's my friends, they'll see this. Yeah, you're friends, but, we used to always joke around and say, "If your mother wouldn't approve of it, don't post it." Now you gotta worry if your employer or your potential employer won't like it, keep it the heck off there, it's
yeah. I love that one. If your mother don't approve, don't post it. 101.
101.
Hiring. No, perfect. No, Mark, I appreciate it. Say this was a great interview. How can our listeners get a hold of you, and what's your last final comments?
My final comment is kinda what my middle comment was, that if you need somebody, you need to reach out to somebody, anything having to do with your career, professionalism, please don't hesitate. I don't care if a mailbag lands on my desk with 10,000 emails, or in this case, emails, not letters anymore. I don't get any letters anymore. I just get bills in the mail,
Yeah.
and other stuff. I don't get phone calls anymore either. I get scams. It's just a crazy world. But I'm the real deal. I'm here to help people in the profession because, like I said, I'm honest. It makes me feel good, and I'm entitled to that. But also, I know that we're building something that's going to help our country be better at what we need to be
Yes.
better at. And to reach me, my email address is Marc, threw you off, no K there, MARC dot LEV as in victory, INE, Levine, not Levine, threw you off again, at all one word, thermosystems.com, just as it sounds. You'll find me on LinkedIn, again, by my name, and you'll find my group, which is the ABCs of Control Systems Engineering. On my LinkedIn page, you'll see a link, view my blog, click on that. That's career tips for engineers. 3 times a week, I put one out. People are saying it's helpful. I hope it is. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know. And I also run a group on Facebook called Careers and Jobs Advice Forum. It's got about 30,000 people in there. And I've set up this condition where you post an issue you have either directly or anonymously. And you'll see members of our group will give you their opinion and advice. I've gotten emails from these people saying, such and such on the site jumped in and helped and gave me a job or showed me how to get a job. So these are the ways that you can reach out. Of course, this blog or video blog will be out there, so
Yep.
you get to view this, and I have others as well that you'll see on LinkedIn, on my LinkedIn page. So I guess the message is to reach out if you need to. If you're looking for a job, Thermosystems is hiring from time to time. www.thermosystems.com/careers for that. I don't always like to kind of make that part of our conversation. You have to, it's kind of like being a Mason, which I am, ask one to be one. That's the
Yeah.
philosophy. I see you know something about masonry. We're
Yep.
not allowed as Masons to recruit people, and I don't do that on my path to helping people grow. But if you ask
Mhm.
me, certainly I'll direct you to the right place. So thank you very much for having me, Jordan.
Yeah, no, Mark, I appreciate it. And hey, for the listeners, please reach out. Again, you can reach out to me. LinkedIn is, the best avenue. Obviously, for my LinkedIn, is say my email and phone number is up there. I'm always open to, having a conversation. Again, guys, appreciate it. So this is Tech Talk with Irony Automated. I'm your host, Jordan Dieterly. Thank you. Signing off.